Boom, baby! Go on.
Hey guys, welcome to GSTL. It's been a little while, but things are starting up here again with Fnatic versus Prime. As always, I'm with Kaldor here. And how are you feeling?
Pretty good, actually. Finally some StarCraft again. I mean, this week so far we had a lot of Protest matches that were already really exciting, but now we have the Team League, and with Fnatic against Prime, we have a pretty good match.
Yeah. You know, it's definitely going to be a tough one for Fnatic today. It's their last chance. They already lost once, and if they lose again, they're going to be totally out here. And they're up against Prime, a team that is a big favorite. They won once before. Maybe they can do it again.
Yeah, and the funny story is that we have today a bit the story of Terran versus Zerg, I feel. We have a lot of good Zerg players on the roster. Fnatic, on the other hand, Prime just lost their best Zerg player. Boom Boom left the team, and now they kind of depend on this 4 players. We have Marine King, you have Bjarne, and of course there's always Creator on the roster as well, Ghost King, so it's always like...
Yeah, I saw Creator earlier. He looked like he was in a... He just seemed very, like, in good condition. I saw him just walking around. He seemed happy. So I think they'll probably use him today. And he's been kind of on a tear right now. He's beating everybody he faces.
Yep.
On the other hand, we do have Bjell on Fnatic, who could get some wins. I don't know if Moon is actually here. I didn't see him.
No, I didn't see him either. I shook hands with most of them earlier, but Moon wasn't on the bench. On the other... well, Oz is also not here, so he's currently on MLG. Exactly, so that might affect things quite a bit. And of course, the one player that I forget earlier, I kind of mentioned Bjorn twice here, is of course Maru.
Yeah, don't forget about him. Marine King is sitting on the bench with his really futuristic glasses.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the team info for today.
Yeah, here we have the two of them. The captain for Fnatic being Moon. For Prime, it is classic these days. Yeah. And, well, of course, the code S ratio already tells the tale a little bit. We have Prime with 3 code S players, whereas Fnatic doesn't have a single one.
Yeah, the Fnatic code B roster almost breaks the chart. It's so high up there. Now here, of course, are win distributions and top contributors, Creator and Marine King for Prime, and on the other side is Alive. He is kind of the backbone of Fnatic these days as a Terran.
Yeah, he definitely is. When it comes down to the player list, of course, the one player that always is able to pull his team back into the competition is Bjall. He was also the one who won the last Fnatic Great Call Invitational that was held here in Seoul at the Fnatic Team House. And he's really, I feel, the player that a lot of them will rely on today.
Yeah, definitely so. I think, you know, we talked about this before. There's not a lot of Protoss we're going to be seeing today. Like you said, it's going to be more of a Terran versus Zerg matchup. And Creator is kind of the only player. We may see Classic, you know.
We saw him the last time, and he was a little bit cheesy, but in a refreshing way. He was not afraid to use strategies that haven't been used in quite a while. Surprised not only one opponent, so Classic is definitely one of the players that we might see today. But yeah, not a lot of Protoss in the roster.
Yeah, not a ton. I don't think we're going to see any of the players like Ares, for example, on Fnatic. You know, when Juani was coaching the team, he talked to us about it a lot. You know, so why don't you ever use players like Ares? And he says, well, they get nervous, they don't have experience, and this is important. This is a really important match, so we don't feel comfortable putting them out. So,
one of the players that we can definitely expect to see today if things go wrong for Prime Team will, of course, be a Creator. But yeah, in general, I think we have like 2 or 3 Protoss that might come out today if you compare it to how many Terran players we have in the lineups and how many Zergs we have. It's a very small number.
Yeah, a very small number indeed. Well, the first match, I believe, was already announced.
Yep.
And it is going to be Jay versus Bjorn.
And there you have it. Already a Zerg versus Terran in our first match today. And Jay so far has been playing quite a lot for his team in the Team League. But he was not as successful as he really wanted to. We talked, as you said, with Juani all the time. And he just mentioned that Jay needs a bit more experience. That he was a little bit too, well, nervous in the past. And that this quite affected him. There we have him to the top. And there's Moon as well.
Yeah, Moon actually did show up.
Yeah.
And that's really important, because he can be quite the team player in this type of situation.
Only 5 players today on the bench, so they are a little bit predictable, as you can see. We have 2 Zerg players and 3 Terrans.
Yeah. So no mystery players here, no secrets.
It's actually the other way around. I'm counting through it, I'm like, no, it's 2 Terrans. It's Raynor Alive, and then you have the 3 Zergs, yeah.
Well, those players are all pretty known. You know, we talked about this a lot in the past when he played, but Jay, I feel, is very weak to all-ins. He just sometimes doesn't react properly, doesn't know what to do.
I feel that their problem today is really that Oz is missing. It does not only take one of their best players away from the team, he was in the OSL semifinals, but at the same time it just limits their lineup when it comes down to the choices of races that they have. They have only Terrans and Zergs on the bench, so this might be a problem later. I mean, let's have a quick look at the roster. You could already see them on camera, but let's have a quick look at the distribution here.
Yep, we'll be starting out with our Terrans here. Actually, no, Moon now, Captain.
Yep.
Zerg, list here, Departure, Bjol, and Jay.
Departure not being here today. Here are the Terrans with the Life and Rain. Nama, who still... I have to write that down. Nama does not look like Hasty.
And here is, of course, Nightend, Oz, and Ares, the Protoss players. Nightend not here today, as is Oz and MLG. And Ares does not appear to be here as well.
Yeah, so they have the minimum amount of players that they're going to need today. And this is, of course, quite the problem. Don't get us wrong, guys. These guys are good. Yal, Moon. Moon was a little bit unlucky in the team league so far. Every single time he tried to pull off a bit of a more aggressive strategy, like a 10-pull or something along those lines, he lost early on. He was scouted and shut down. So he didn't really perform as well as he wanted to, but he's still a very strong player. So Fnatic is definitely in a position where they can take the Prime team. It all depends on how the first games go.
Yeah, I think you're certainly right. Well, Fnatic, they're on their last legs. This is definitely going to be a hard match for them, and it's their last chance. And they are going to have to beat Beyond first. We talked about that. Here comes the Prime team.
Marine King already lurking at the edge of the screen. There he is.
I'm convinced Marine King is from the future.
With the white rims once again. Yeah, it could be. If you see those weird futuristic movies, they always wear shit like that.
Yeah. And, you know, look at his shoes even are the same color. You know, we don't get to talk about shoes very often at the GSL, but you can see him here.
Yeah, I'm trying, but you always come in with the hair and then I don't have time left now. Maru, of course, once again being the shortest here.
Creator's hair, by the way, is getting really long, and I think he might have to cut it soon. He may even have to straighten it if he wants to, because you can see it's kind of sticking out there at the back. He doesn't even know that, I don't think. Gotta be careful about that. You don't want to look like you haven't gotten a haircut in a few weeks, and that's what he's starting to look like.
Well, if Creator actually doesn't get a haircut soon, then he's probably gonna look like L.
Yeah, probably. Just like Beyond Man.
Exactly. And with twins. Yeah, but as mentioned, for Prime today, well, let's have a little bit of a look at the roster here. As we mentioned, one of the races that they're pretty short on today are actually Zerg. At least successful Zergs. We start off with the Protoss players, with the classic Creator and Rusi. I was still wondering if he's actually named Lucy or if that's just like the Korean LR thing.
Marin, King Prime, Beyond Prime, and Maru.
We dropped the E today. I was like, what? We don't need that.
Don't forget about Terius, aka Bumblebee, and Arya. I didn't know Arya had actually joined Prime. I was not aware of that, but that's actually really interesting.
Yeah, they have two Zergs on the roster, but I'm not quite sure if we're actually going to see one of them today, because the problem for them really is that Boom Boom was just their best Zerg player by far. I mean, this guy was always so close of getting into Code S.
Classic looking like he wants to kill somebody. He may have his chance.
Yeah, he might get a shot here. Depends on how Beyond is going to do today.
Group of characters in the corner. You got over there, Mario Man and Marine King. They just look like this team has people from everywhere, man. And all types of players on this bench. I like to see it. Super young player. He's got his young over there with the futuristic glasses, who changed the way Terran vs. Zerg is played forever.
I would like to see a Creator today, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I would really love that. I mean, our first game is Zerg vs. Terran. We talked about it a little bit. We have Jay up against Bjorn. I guess we're going to get a boost shot of both of them in just a few seconds. But I really would like to see Creator today. So there we have him. There's Jay, aka Lovesick. That was his former ID. Came out for the team quite a couple of times already, but
yeah, not
as
too successful. Exactly. He's had some trouble, and I really feel like his weakness is all-ins. When people all-in him, he very rarely survives.
I feel like saying that he was not too successful is a little bit of an understatement. I'm not quite sure if he won a single game so far. I actually don't think so. He lost against Yonghwa, he lost against Salvation, and he lost against Sirius, so it's like, what?
Yeah. He's got a tough road ahead of him, especially playing against such a good Terran player right off the start. I think that he may be able to do it, but it's definitely going to be a sign of improvement if he's able to take out his opponent here. And of course, the starting player for Prime is Bjorn. We like to call him L because he looks like he is about to write something in a Death Note.
Yeah,
sorry, not that. He's trying to find Kira. That's Kira actually that writes in Death Notes. I'm getting the characters confused now because all I can think about is Death Note at this moment in time.
Well, if he wants to take someone down or find someone, today is his chance against Jay, a player who has been struggling a little bit against Terran lately. He has a good shot. Seems to be a little bit tired.
Yeah, he was up all night looking through the police reports. He's getting a little bit exhausted. He didn't really have that much time to practice. He thinks our joke's really funny. Yeah, he does look really tired. That may affect him here.
At the next Code A qualifier, I have to take a shot how he sits on these chairs at the... We can't see it at the studio, but the way that he angles his feet, and sometimes he has his feet right in front of him, like L in Death Note, it's crazy. You wouldn't believe it if I told you, because you need to see it. You need to see it to believe it. It's like crazy.
I can confirm. I will vouch for you.
He can be so awkward, like not in a bad way, but just weird.
Yeah.
It's really funny. It's pretty cool. He's such a nice guy. Grand Lagoon is, by the way, our first map today.
Yeah, Grand Lagoon, a pretty big map. And for this matchup, that's obviously going to favor Jay a little bit. Not too many maps or matches played on this map just yet. It's usually one of the later picked maps because it's one that people don't know that well.
I don't know. I like it a little bit, though. It's a bit weird, and I'm not quite sure if it's really balanced, but I like to see it.
Yeah, it's definitely new and refreshing, that's for sure.
I think we only casted it twice so far. But guys, well, let's jump into the first game. Fnatic is up against Prime. We have a Zerg versus Terran. It is Jay up against Bjorn.
3, 2, 1, go! Feed my motor!
Fnatic is up against Prime, and the first player from the Fnatic team starts to the top right. In red, we have the Zerg, who calls himself
Fnatic Lady Call J!
aka Lovesick. That was his old ID. Now he's Jay.
He got over it. Changed his ID. His opponent, he is basically the Death Note Protoss. Or Terran. I'm just doing everything wrong today. His ID is...
Beyond Prime!
My face is like redder than the Zerg player's hatchery color on the map, man. Like, that was terrible. He was, of course, the runner-up Code A of January 2011. I think he lost to Lucira in that season, if I'm not mistaken.
I think before we go to the city tomorrow, I have to buy you a double espresso.
Yeah, I am falling all over the place today, man.
That's fine.
Well,
I got your back.
Thank you, man. I know you always got my back.
Alright, so on Grand Lagoon, of course, right now what we could expect, or what we expect certainly for our Fnatic Zerg player, would be a hatch first. So far he didn't start with any kind of early pool shenanigans, and on a two-player map that's obviously what you always should do. Because if the Terran player is scouting and sees that you have an early pool, all he has to do is just wall off. And there's already the hatch built at 15, so exactly what we could expect here. Whereas on the other hand, our Terran player is starting with the command center first.
Yeah, this is actually becoming much more common these days, I feel, with command center first. With these bigger maps, that's one reason why, but another thing is I feel like people have figured out that it's safe in almost all situations and allows a lot of different faster play. When you get that command center up so much faster, you can hit these attacks that just you wouldn't ordinarily be able to do because you wouldn't have the resources and time to hit the Zerg.
I really love this matchup because there are so many different strategies that you can just play. And even a double barracks opening is still so strong, even if the Zerg builds the Spinecrawler. We talked in the past about how many Zergs actually try to skip the Spinecrawler because they play greedy and then just lose the game. But we just had a game in Code S where actually Hyun had to face Gumiho, and Gumiho starts things with the... I don't know, sorry, that wasn't actually Gumiho. I think it was a game that he played against Happy? Not Happy.
Yoda, was it?
Yeah, Yoda, thank you. Yeah, and even though he built a spine crawler, he didn't really micro his drones well and didn't pull enough of them, so suddenly he loses the game, which just shows that all these strategies that you can play as a Terran player in the early game can still pressure a Zerg and take him down. It's just a matchup where you can have action from the first to the last second.
Yeah, very true, actually. Very well said. I think on this map, I mean, just looking at it, you guys have seen it probably a few times as well. You know, the third base is a little bit tough to take. Even if you want to take the third command center, as we see Bjorn is doing now, if you want to take that third command center, there's not really a place where you can lift it and escape, like on some other maps like Cloud Kingdom. If you take that third base, it's fairly easy to save your command center.
And this third CC, of course, will just delay everything in regards to the tech a little bit. But with the double refinery that he's currently building, he will be able to get it out just in time. The thing is that right now in this early game he is quite vulnerable. There's not a lot that he has. He dumped so many minerals now in the third CC and is now also of course starting to get a bunker at the front because he wants to make up for exactly this fact. But the third mule will help him a lot, and also he can rely on the triple ACV production, which will close the gap between the harvesters quite significantly. So I'm really interested to see what Jay's idea is here. If he identifies what's going on and if he tries to be aggressive, if he tries to execute some kind of pressure build, or if he just tries to go for the macro game here and starts to take a third and a fourth.
Well, he's taking double gas now, actually in 2 different locations, so it's much harder to scan, figure out what's going on. And it looks like he's just going to be sticking with just that, too. He's hitting 39 drones in total. I don't think he's going to put on a ton of pressure here, but maybe he rather wants to be safe with his third, since, as I mentioned before, it's a little bit far away. The STVs decide to go back into the main base. Interesting.
Yeah, Jay takes his third base right now, so we might also... And he's starting to spread his creep. This map is actually not as big as you would think if you look on the minimap. It's not a small map, but you can spread creep towards your opponent quite easily. And now what Jay could still do is, for example, drop a roach run and be a bit aggressive. I don't really think that he's going to do it. We've seen this in the past a lot more often, that a Zerg player tries to rely on a few roaches and puts on a bit of aggression, which helps him against the Hellions, and it gives him just an opportunity to be a little bit aggressive on his own to control central points on the map.
Now, what those 2 SCVs that we saw earlier go back in the main art, looks like he just selected them from his natural. He actually made those 2 E-bays with that. So the early upgrades are coming out here, and as Legend showed just briefly, there is an Overlord in position to scout this, but if he doesn't actually send it, then it's not going to be valuable to him. He's already starting his own evolution chambers. They're very late compared to Beyond, though.
Yeah, Beyond actually is going for very fast upgrades here. +1/+1, also the stim. And he just supports it with Hellions. One of the questions, of course, now is going to be how many Hellions is he going to build? How much is he actually committing to his Hellion pressure?
Yeah, it's something that is really flexible for a Terran. If you want to hit a timing attack with your Hellions, that's something you can do. The Overlord here doesn't actually get a lot of information. He already knew about the Hellions from the start, and he doesn't see... I don't think he actually saw those extra barracks either. No, he didn't. So he doesn't even know what's coming next. Seeing the research on the tech lab, though, does let him know that he's not going to be facing a mech composition. Otherwise, he wouldn't research stem or combat shields.
I really like the wall at the natural for Jay. He already put 2 queens in place to make sure that the Hellions can't run by. This is one of the things that we see every time. Just a nice wall built up, a small gap, and the Zerg player doesn't react in time, doesn't see the Hellions, doesn't close the gap. Suddenly, he has to deal in his main and natural with Hellion harass and loses most of his units. So this is always like really, really annoying, but it seems like Jay is on top of things and also wants to send in these Zerglings, but they are running right into the Hellions now.
Yeah, and a great reaction here by Bjorn, pulls them away at the right moment, pulls back to the bunker, and a lot of units lost here for Jay. It's always a risk to try to move out with that many Lings. You're basically hoping for your opponent to leave his depot down or be out on the map with his units and miss you, but in this case it was the perfect storm of bad. The Hellions found the Lings and the wall was ready in time.
And this is still one of the things that kind of baffles me a little bit. StarCraft 2 has been out for such a long time, but Terran players for some reason still refuse to hotkey the supply depots that they need to wall. It would be so much easier for them to just hotkey 1 or 2 supply depots that they just lower and lift every single time when they need it, and then on the minimap, if you identify a threat to your base and you see Zerglings running in, you just have to press 2 hotkeys and your wall is set. But so often you see Terran players struggling against the Zergling run-bys because the depot is not lifted, the Zerglings run, and we've just seen it yesterday in the Code S once again, and it's... I don't know, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it certainly is strange, that's for sure. You can even have all your depots on 1 hotkey from your natural and your main, because you're going to want both of them lifted in the case of a run-by anyways, so... 2-2 is very fast here for Bjorn. He's got him at the 10-30 minute mark already started, and so far, you know, the Zerg player is getting some kind of information, drops that Changeling, and Jay, his tech has been shown now. He's getting the Spire up, looks like he wants to add Mutalisk in, but with the timing of this, I feel he's not really going to be able to accomplish too much.
Well, the Mutalisk in this case are only meant to shut the drops down, and then he's going to go for Zergling, Baneling, Mutalisk. So this mid-game composition that we see in this matchup. He doesn't try to rush Broodlords, which is of course also a very valid strategy, but he tries to go for this very aggressive mid-game composition that you can use against Terran. On the other hand, with the upgrades that the Prime player has, it's gonna be pretty tough. If Jan is on top of his micro, he can dodge a lot of these Banelings, and Marines with +2/+2 and all these upgrades will do a lot of damage.
Yeah,
he doesn't have a lot of medivacs though.
Yeah, he's only got 3 out in total right now. This dual pressure with the Hellions has been very successful so far. He is using some scans, which costs him a little bit of money, but being able to clear up this creep really is going to help him out, especially holding that third base over to the left side. He also killed one of the Queens earlier. He delayed the creep that's on the right. He's just doing so much with this small group of Hellions, and we talked about this in the early game, you know, how many Hellions he's going to commit to. In this case, he's got 10 in total, which really helped him against the Ling run by. It's also helped him clear up these tumors. It looks like Bjorn is starting to move out a little bit with his Marine forces. He's got one to the right and one to the left.
Yeah, he tries to control the Xel'Naga watchtowers, try to free them from Zerglings. He still doesn't really commit to any kind of medivac plays, only 3. Needs to be careful here though, these guys get trapped very fast. Banelings don't detonate here, but this is going to be a little bit of a problem. Without the medivacs, he has to be really careful with the stims. And oh nice, I like the Banelinging.
Bjorn is massively ahead at this point. He has a 10 Harvester lead because he had that third command center so early. He has a crazy economy, and in supply, even after losing those Marines, he's up 30 supply because he just had this extra production that was never pressured. And we had Jay take a slightly late third hatchery as well, so he really has to make something work here. That's why he's taking some risks with his Banelings. He's putting those Banelings around the map because if those get scanned, obviously that's a little bit of a loss for you, but you might get a big reward of killing a ton of Marines.
Jay also realized that in the mid game here, he can maybe be safe, but he can't really put on a lot of aggression. This is why he transitions into the Hive right now. We have him also with the Pathogen Glance upgrade. And a lot of these Baneling traps, this is a little bit Lenok style, something that Lenok will always do. +3/+3 on the other hand, already being built by Bjorn, who plays a great game here.
Yep, he's just sending these small groups of Marines around the map. He's found again by a burrowed Zergling, so that's taken out. But his army is way out of position to deal with actual Bjorn's strong full army attack. Maybe too much for him. The counterattack is going to be easily thwarted here by a bunker. Looks like even the turret is going to help out. And Jay is in a ton of trouble right now. These Banelings are morphing right under Marine fire.
And now we have more medivacs joining the fun. Those Marines have to be careful with the stim, as said before. But right now he's doing a lot of pressure. He's going straight towards the third base. And this is something that Jay can't really afford. He needs to be very careful here. And now the Hellions are in position, guarded by Marines and siege tanks. Here comes the Zerg player, trying to take this force down.
Yeah, there's a good angle here, but I just don't think it's necessarily going to be enough. He just barely would clean these Marines up, actually. And that was really critical. The second wave comes through. He needs a few more Banelings for these.
And the big problem is that he just doesn't trade cost efficiently here. Yeah. Yes, the Zerglings will most likely end up cleaning everything up here, but +3/+3 isn't even done with those upgrades. The Prime player would have been in an even better position. But even as it is, he is still ahead with 30 supply. He lost less resource than his opponent. He has a great economy working for him. And this is going to be very stressful for Jay.
Yeah, he wants to make something work here, but he even loses some unit to the turret. And now his Mutalisk count is fully gone. He went down to 0 there. And that means that he can't deal with drops anymore. And this is something that Bjorn is definitely going to know and realize when he sees no more Mutas flying around. He's probably going to start doing drops. And he's going to be spread a little bit thin against those medevac drops.
We currently see the Ultralisk Cavern coming in. He's going for +3/+3 for Adrenal Glands. I'm just not sure if Bjorn will give him the time that he needs. He already is about to finish +3/+3. We have him with the force that he needs. Only 25 supply left and he will be maxed out again. If he pushes out right now with this upgrade advantage that he has, before we have Ultralisks against the Marines, I feel he won't have any problem at all. He even expands towards his opponent right now because he wants to establish a planetary fortress.
Yeah, he wants to establish that position, exactly, so that he can continue to attack his opponent while falling back to the defensive fortress. This drop is just not enough with 3-3 on the Marines. Those Lings just can't handle it. And now, again, with no Mutas, he can continue to annoy this location on the right side of the map. This is something that Jay will have to deal with. If he does not, then he's going to start losing overlords. He's going to lose maybe some tech structures, and this is allowing Beyond to positionally start to move across the left side of the map where he's establishing that planetary.
And also these infestors that Jay is currently building are the first infestors that we have in the game because he was concentrating on the mutalisks before. And now we go in, tries to split against the Banelings, saw them a bit too late, loses them. But yeah, the rest of the army is still on the move, trying to get into a good position, and even spots these Banelings. Yeah, the scan, of course, being dropped immediately.
Yep, he's not going to lose any Marines here. And all things considered, Jay is hanging in there. He's getting those infestors out right now. He only has 6 of them at this moment in time, but if the fungals are good, he can change the course of a battle. There's so many siege tanks, though. In total, there are 7 on the map. And each siege tank can do so much damage to those infestors, it's going to be hard to approach and get those fungals off.
At this point now, the biggest issue for Jay is certainly that his third to the top left is under so much pressure that he's most likely going to lose it. He has 4 bases right now, but so does Björn. And the third, it is gone. He can't do anything about it, and he knows it. Björn is maxed out. He has the bank, he has the upgrades. He's even building 3 starports now because he's afraid that there might be a transition into Brooklords.
Yeah. Fortunately for Jay, you know, as far as that goes, it's not going to be too useful, but this attack just looks so puny. You know, he's trying to get in there and hit those fungals, but he's just lost too much already. He finally does clean up those Marines at the last second there, but the siege tanks kill another infestor. The last infestor is gone. I think this is going to be GG.
It looks pretty devastating now for Jay. Björn is just on a roll here. He has 40 supply ahead. He's moving in, trying to take down the natural. And the problem for Jay is just he doesn't have the resources. He really can't compete with the economy that Björn has. All these units he does, he builds the first Marauders, but he might not even need them.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And Björn is just going to walk up here. He's very careful. Targets down the infestation pit, or at least he can if he wants to. He wants to do a nice split. And it was just, there was a combination of 2 things. The better economy for Björn early on, and also the engagements were so cost efficient for him because of the upgrades that he just was able to take every single one of them and then have a bank to remax. The same could not be said for Jay, though.
Yeah, his strategy was just so solid, and now we have siege tanks being killed, but yeah, Jay's down to 100 supply already. The Marines are taking down the drones to the right side of the map, and he's of course just resupplying his armies, even getting another base. He has all the upgrades that he needs, and the next wave of attack will have Marauders against the Ultralisks.
Yeah. This fungal is not even going to be enough to kill all these Marines. He's got 4 of them left here. And 3-3 Marines versus drones at that hatchery did not trade very well for Jay. Cleans these up. The medevac may go down to the Spore. But more importantly, this second wave of units that's going to come through here to really clean things up is all that Björn needs. He's going to even get these drones. All of them gone.
It's a slaughter.
Yeah, this is the end for Jay here. Not successful in game number 1.
He tries to go for a heavy mid-game and then transitions into the late game, but the Ultralisks were a little bit too late. His third was already gone, and the transition for Björn was no problem at all. Down to 57 supply, the Fnatic player is going to type GG soon, whereas Björn, he takes the first point onto the scoreboard for his team. Prime will have a lead here.
This is the losing streak continues for Jay. He's just not, he's been fairly underwhelming as of late, and it's unfortunate for him, but he just can't seem to get it together. And Fnatic chose him first, and when you are the player who goes first, there's a lot of pressure on you. You're the player who knows about your opponent the longest before anyone else.
Yep.
And he was not able to prepare well. Björn's strategy really cut him off guard, I feel. He didn't really realize what Björn was doing until it was too late. He didn't put any pressure on him. And so Björn basically got a ton of harvesters and a ton of extra mining for free.
Björn played it a bit greedy against early aggression. He would have struggled, but now we see just the results of such an early game. He can completely capitalize on what he started earlier, and he's gonna win it. GG. Here we go. Björn takes the lead for his team. Prime ahead in the series.
Looking very happy about his win, as he should.
It was well played. Played a straight up game against his opponent. Jay, he's a bit startled.
He played the strategy, and he played it well. He knew what he was going to do. He executed it, and he really didn't make very many mistakes in that game at all. He realized the openings in his opponent, and he capitalized on it. I wouldn't say that Jay's play had a lot of holes, but as far as build order-wise went, Björn had the faster third base, he had the faster upgrades, and he just ran with those leads that he got.
Let's just be honest for a second. Today, in this game, Björn was the better player.
He was.
That's what it comes down to. And therefore, he's a very strong opponent to beat, not only for Jay, but also for the next Fnatic player that we are going to see soon.
I love this shot where you have Bjorn and then you have Bjorn on TV behind Bjorn. That's a great shot. So as you can see, new Korean caster for GSTL over there. But who's it going to be now? Are they going to send Moon out at this point? I mean, you just lost one Zerg player, but it was a little bit uncharacteristic. Do you want to send a Zerg who has a little bit more fire? You know, someone who's a little bit more aggressive?
If you send out a Terran player, it has to be alive. He's confident in his abilities to win a Terran versus Terran matchup. But yeah, a Zerg player, on the other hand, that's probably the choice that I'd go for. I feel like with 5 players on the bench, one of the players that we might see last is actually Bial. He's considered to be one of the best players right now, so we might see him as the last player. We might see Moon though, yeah. You're right.
Yeah, I would say either Moon or Alive I think is coming out next year. And to send Alive out this early would be a pretty uncomfortable choice. He's a good all-around player, but I think you want to save him until later, until things get really stressful.
So of course, always a bit of a guessing game, but to the top left we have Alive, bottom right we have Moon, Rain, top right. In the middle of the 2 Terrans is Bial. And it is... Looks like Moon is getting ready.
I think it's Moon.
Yes, it's Moon.
Alright, 5th race. Let's see what you can do today.
The 5th race, once again, the last games that he played, he was a bit unlucky with the strategies that he chose. What map is he going to choose? We are going to find out soon. Of course, before we see the next game, we are heading into a 5-minute break, and then we will be back with the GSTL with Fnatic Moon up against Yan Prime.